The Fall of the House of Usher and Other Stories by Edgar Allan Poe. The Fall of the House of Usher. On a dark, silent day in fall, I was riding alone through flat, gray countryside. As evening came, I first saw the melancholy house of Usher. Immediately I felt a terrible sadness. The house was dark, with windows like empty eyes. Almost nothing grew in the grounds around it. My heart felt cold like ice. I was afraid. I stopped to think. Why did the house make me so uncomfortable? It was a mystery. We cannot always understand why some things scare us. But I had to continue toward the dark house because I was planning to stay there for a few weeks. The owner of the house, Roderick Usher, was a close friend when I was a boy. I heard nothing from him for many years until he wrote me a letter. The letter was very strange. In it, he asked me to come and see him. He was very sick, he said, in body and in mind. Only a visit from me, his best and only friend, could help to make him well and happy again. His request seemed to come from his heart, and I could not say no. Usher and I were very good friends as children, but I did not know much about him. He always disliked being around people. The Ushers were not like other people. They loved art and music. They were very rich and gave money away to poorer people, but they were also very private. Because the same house was always passed down from father to son, people called the family too the House of Usher. I looked again at the house, and at the grounds around it. Again I felt afraid. The air seemed to hang over the house and grounds, and it smelled of death. I'm dreaming, I thought. I'm making myself afraid. I shook my head and looked again. The house was very old and in a terrible state. Looking closely, I noticed a narrow crack in the wall. It began at the roof and made its way down the side of the house. I crossed a bridge to the house. A man was waiting for me on the other side, and he took my horse. I went into the house, and another man took me through it. He did not say a word. Each room was very dark. I felt as uncomfortable inside the house as outside. Even ordinary furniture looked strange. Then, near a stairway, I met the family doctor. He, too, acted strangely. He said hello nervously, but walked quickly away. At last my guide took me to the door of Roderick Usher's room and let me in. It was difficult to see the room because there was little light. It seemed very large, though, with a black wooden floor. The furniture was old and looked uncomfortable. Books were everywhere, but they brought no life to the room. The air was heavy with sadness. Then I saw Usher. He was lying on a sofa, but he got up and said hello to me warmly. But was it really him? When we sat down, I could not believe it. He was a good-looking boy, all those years ago. His face was thin but handsome. His eyes shone, and his hair was soft and beautiful. Now his hair was thin and wild, his eyes were large and wet, and his face was terribly pale. I felt sorry for him. My friend was acting as strangely as he looked. One minute he was excited and happy and spoke very quickly. The next minute he was sad and spoke very slowly. He was glad to see me, he said. He hoped that I could help him and his illness. He believed that this illness was in his family. It attacked his senses, he said. He could eat only simple foods and wear only soft clothes. Weak light hurt his eyes, and even flowers smelled bad to him. Music was the only sound that pleased him. He was always afraid. "I will die," he said. "I must die if this illness continues. I fear the future. I fear that I will lose my mind completely. I am afraid that I will die of fear." Usher never left the house, but he believed that the house was the reason for his strange illness. His dear sister Madeline was suffering from a similar illness. She was dying and was Usher's last living relative. "When she dies," he said, "I'll be the last of the Ushers." While he spoke, the Lady Madeline suddenly came into the room. She passed through it without noticing me. She seemed so strange and not of this earth. Looking at her, I was afraid again. My friend cried when he saw her. Madeline's illness was a mystery to the family doctor. She was not interested in anything, and she was dying like a flower without water. She was growing weaker every day. The next day she did not leave her bed. Maybe I have seen her, I thought, for the first and last time. Madeline's name was not spoken for days as I tried to help my friend. We painted and read together, or I listened patiently to Usher's strange songs. I soon realized, though, that I could not help his melancholy. His books, his songs, and his pictures showed me the state of his mind. One of his pictures was of a very long, brightly lit, white tomb deep in the earth. I will never forget it, and the many strange hours that I spent with him. Then one evening, Usher told me suddenly of the Lady Madeline's death. He wanted to place her body in one of the many tombs under the house. I agreed to help him put the body there.